Guys, so today we are talking about mammals. It is our final group of things that live on this planet and is probably the one that we are the most familiar with because it's the group that we are a part of. So also, like, mammals are adorable, they are cute and squishy and fuzzy and we love them. So this is the one that we're probably the most familiar with just off the top of our heads. So let's get into mammals. So first, if I can move my face, I want to talk about some general mammal traits. Now, because mammals are a newer group, we did not evolve until, fairly recently, a couple of gajillion, I think it's a couple million years ago, actually. So we do share a lot of the traits. So there's going to be very few examples where, like, for example, all mammals are endothermic. Okay, there's not going to be many exceptions to some of these. Okay, and there are some exceptions, but it's going to be few and far between. We're a pretty tight group. Okay, so all mammals are endothermic, which means that we generate our own body heat from inside of us. Okay, now specifically, the part of us that generates our heat is our digestive system. Okay, so the way that our digestive system is set up, because it is kind of always working a little bit, we, just the squish and pull and movement generates that internal heat, which warms our blood, which heats up our brain. And this endothermic trait allows most mammals to be pretty smart. Okay, so if you compare, even a mouse to, a spider or a turtle, mammals are going to be generally smarter than other animals. So, another trait that most mammals have, there's only a couple that don't have this trait, is going to be hair. Okay, so, whether you are completely covered in it, like these fuzzy people, or, you are a human and you just have it in a couple of places, mammals have hair. Okay, and it's another trait that kind of helps with this endothermic. So these two things combined together mean that mammals can live pretty much anywhere. So even if it's a really, really, really cold place, a mammal's going to be okay there because we generate our own body heat and we are able to keep that heat close to us. Okay, so moving on. We also have well-developed brains. And again, this kind of goes back to this endothermic because we are able to get hot, nutrient-rich blood to our brain at any point of the day. That allows our brains to, get big. We have large brains compared to other animals. So, okay, another couple of traits that mammals have. All mammals have a four-chambered heart. Okay, we have these big, complicated four-chambered hearts that, some parts go to our lungs, some parts go to the body, and it allows us to make sure that we are always getting fresh, oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood to our brains at all times. Okay, now for us, again, that allows us to be smart. Mammals also have a diaphragm, which is that muscle. Sorry, it's hard to see the computer, but that muscle underneath our rib cage that pulls our lungs open and pushes them back closed. This means that we can get tons of oxygen into our body, and because of that four-chambered heart pumping and pushing blood directly to the lungs, we can pull a lot of oxygen out of, the air, which then allows us, to get that to our brain, and we are really smart. So, another trait that mammals have is we have differentiated teeth. Okay, so some mammals are going to have teeth for grinding, like horses and cows and other ruminants. Because they eat grasses and they have to grind things down. So they have these flat, big, grindy teeth. We also have mammals that have gnawing teeth, which allow them to chomp on wood or vegetative matter. And then we also have these carnivorous teeth, which are specifically, intended for tearing. Now, humans and other apes are really cool because we have all three types of teeth in our mouth. Okay, so if you think about it, if you're gonna eat, a sunflower seed, where are you gonna put that in your mouth to chew it? Probably back here, right? Because these are our grinding teeth. Okay, if you were going to, bite through a piece of celery, where are you going to do that at? Probably right here, because these are our gnawing teeth. And then if you were going to tear off a piece of beef jerky, you're probably going to go right in here, like to the side, because these are your canine teeth, your tearing teeth. Okay, so we are cool because we have all three types of teeth in our mouth, and that's not normal. So, moving on. Okay, so all mammals are viviparous. Okay, which, do I have the definition? Yes, means that we have internal fertilization. Okay, so mammals are going to have, penises and vaginas. They have internal fertilization. You have to try and get the sperm material as close to the egg as possible, so the penis has to go inside the female's body. Okay, we also have internal development. Now, there is an exception to this, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But for the most part, mammals keep the babies on the inside until they are developed most of the way. So, you have to have the sperm get to the place where we're having the baby. Okay, now, there are exceptions, one or two, maybe, to all of those traits before. Okay, now, like I said before, we're a pretty tight-knit group, so there's only going to be maybe one or two exceptions to each, instead of the fish where there's a gajillion exceptions to everything. But the single most important mammal trait, the one thing that unites us all and makes us a mammal, is the mammary gland. Okay, so I have a picture over here. This is a human mammary gland. So this is a human breast. You can see the ribs. You can see those intercostal muscles. You can see this layer of pectoral muscles with a bunch of fat. And then all of these purpley thingies in here are mammary glands. Okay, this is what makes us mammals. Okay, so let's talk about the mammary gland. Ugh, excuse me. So again, this is a human mammary gland. I did all human diagrams because we're mammals. These are the kind of mammary glands that we're gonna have. You have other types of mammary glands. You have the cow udder. You have the way that dogs are with their multiple mammary glands along their stomach. But this is the most easily accessible, the one that we're most familiar with, because we're humans. So basically what a mammary gland is it is a modified sweat gland or a modified oil gland, which is kind of gross. If you think about milk is basically just the base is the same as sweat or oil, which is kind of gross. So within the mammary tissue, so whether it's a cow's udder or a teat on a goat or a breast on a human, there are going to be these cavities, these it's like a hollow cave almost within the tissue, and it is lined with milk producing glands. Okay, these modified sweat and oil glands. Okay, because the milk is the food for the baby. Okay, it contains proteins, it contains fats, it contains antibodies, all the stuff that you need to get a baby growing and healthy and fattening up so that it can be on its own. Okay, so, excuse me, here we have these lobules, which are these hollow cavities. They're going to, go through these ducts and then out of the mammary, tissue. So in humans, for example, we have the nipple. Okay, moving on. So there are two different types of mammals. Okay, and today we're going to talk about the non-placental mammals. But you have two, so you have the placental and the non-placental. I'll talk later about what a placenta is and the difference between, why these guys are called placental. But today we're going to talk about the non-placental. Okay, so your non-placental mammals, they do not carry the baby on the inside. They do not experience pregnancy. Okay, so there's two basic subtypes of these non-placentals. The first is the monotremes. Okay, these are the egg-laying mammals. Okay, now that's weird because mammals are, we get pregnant, we give birth to a baby. Okay, egg laying is something that reptiles and birds and, fish and frogs and all them do. So why do these guys get to be mammals? They have mammary glands. That's why. So, yeah, they have those mammary glands. That's why they get to continue to be classified as mammals, even though they do not they do not have pregnancy. Okay, so there's two monotremes, the duck-billed platypus and the echidna. Oh yeah, that's super weird. So they have mammary glands, but they don't have nipples, which is strange. So the way that these guys feed their babies is they have what's called a milk patch. Okay, and it's on their chest and on their stomach. And what will happen is when the baby gets hungry, they will sweat milk out of their milk patches, and the baby will snuffle it or lick it off of their body, which is horrifying. Ugh, yeah, that's gross. But they are still mammals because they have those milk-producing glands, okay? Now, our second type of non-placental mammal is a marsupial, okay? And this is one that we're probably more familiar with because this is going to be like kangaroos, okay? These are the pouch babies, all right? So what happens is they give birth to an extremely underdeveloped baby. And that baby finishes its development in a pouch on the outside of the body, okay? So here is a kangaroo. And you guys, you should be familiar with kangaroos. If you're not, a fully grown kangaroo is roughly the size of Miss Altman. So they're pretty big, but this is a kangaroo's baby, okay? So the mom kangaroo will give birth to this. You can see the penny here, okay? So this is an extremely underdeveloped baby, okay? This baby then has to climb up the mother, which is wild, until it gets from her, from the vagina, that vaginal canal where the baby was just born, up into the pouch, which I think, no, I don't have a picture. Okay, once it gets in the pouch, inside the pouch there are nipples, and so the baby will attach onto a nipple, and it will eat, and it will finish developing inside that pouch, okay? That is crazy. It's a little bit closer to, the way that we do it because, we skip this step and we just keep this underdeveloped baby inside until it's done. But marsupials, mostly because a fully developed marsupial baby is huge. Okay, so if you look here, this is a huge baby. If she had to give birth to this size of baby, she would die. So, and over here, look, this is a possum. This is the size of one of her babies. Okay, and they're still not completely done. So if they have to give birth to these massive babies, they would die from trauma. So they give birth to an extremely underdeveloped baby and then keep it going on the outside where they won't die from it. So that's the reasoning as to why they do this. So here's a couple marsupials. We only have one that lives here in the US, and that is the possum. But kangaroos and wallabies, koalas, wombats, and Tasmanian devils, those are all marsupials. So they give birth to those really creepy, gross, nasty babies and then finish them on the outside. Real quick, super adorable, the wombat, because they spend most of their time digging. Y'all know how much I love wombats. The pouch is backwards. So typically the pouch, here, the pouch faces forwards. So the baby sits like this. In the wombat, the pouch is backwards, so the baby sits like that, so that when she's digging, her pouch doesn't fill up with dirt. It's super funny. Okay. All right, so we will come back tomorrow to talk about the placental mammals, what that means, and why we are in this group. Okay, bye.